Welcome back to today's edition of Sports Check right here on KBC Channel 1. Now, for next interview, what I'm holding in my hand is a popular sports magazine. I'm sure most sports fans, of course, have come across this, Sports Monthly. And, well, we are joined by not only the founder of this, but we are joined by the founder and director of the Kenya International Sports Film Festival. As you're well aware, it started on Thursday last week and came to a conclusion yesterday. So today we are joined for an overview of the whole event. We are joined by the director of KISP, that is Asif Karim. And, well, it is a popular name. Thank you very much, Asif, for giving us the time. For most sports fans, of course, you all realize that Asif Karim is a former Kenya international, not only in one sport, really, in two sports. I'm talking about tennis as well as cricket. Thank you very much, Asif, for, of course, giving us the time once again here on Sports Check. And, well, I would like us to delve into the whole playing career and whatnot, but for now, let us talk about the most important thing, the Kenya International Sports Film Festival. The third film festival that Asif, of course, has directed, has organized, but it was the first virtual sports film festival, which is a great start. It's actually the only sports film festival that was held virtually in Africa this year.
Indeed.
Abroad, we're not quite sure, but in Africa, we're definitely quite sure. So maybe let's get right into it. So maybe just an overview for those who might not have come across the Kenya International Sports Film Festival. What does it involve and what does it aim to achieve in the long run?
Thank you. Good morning and good morning to all the viewers. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to the studio. And I always say that media plays a very important role. And I need to thank you and all the media for the wonderful work that you guys do, because without you, the stories would not go out there. So thank you for that. The Sports Film Festival initiated 3 years ago, and this concept came in when we had produced a documentary on my family, that has contributed about 100 years in Kenya, since my grandfather came in 1926. And then this documentary featured in various film festivals around the world. And I was invited to India, and as we were watching, and it actually premiered there, the documentary, and as we were watching, it all of a sudden struck to me that these are very inspiring movies, but Kenyans have equally, if not better stories. But we have nothing there of substance that we have recorded or recognized what I call our unsung heroes of this country. And I said, when I go back and when I finish my coffee table book, which was the next project I was doing, I would be very keen to see how we can do a sports film festival, because I think it's a niche market. It's something that can create jobs for the film industry, for the creative industry, and also to recognize our sports heroes who have done so well, because I think it's a responsibility of this generation to document and keep a record for the legacy and for the heritage of our country, and something for the incoming generation to know where our journey has started. And so, fortunately, with a lot of challenges, but all positive and good support from sponsors, from partners, from my team, and then we managed to get we average over 1,000 movies every year from over 100 countries. So indirectly or directly, we have also created tourism, where Kenya is now featuring in 108 countries. That there is a film festival here. And so there's a huge following around. And so when we were looking at this year with COVID-19, of course, the first reaction was, we postpone it. But then as a couple of months later, the whole technology took over the world. We have the Zoom meetings and the Microsoft meetings, and
which is actually what most of us have been using for interviews.
Yeah.
Well, Asif, kindly allow me to digress a bit.
Sure.
We're going to be taking you, the viewers, of course, to another live event at the moment. Chief Justice David Maraga is, of course, present, presiding over the swearing in of the registrar of political parties. Let's have a listening to that.
I now call upon Ali Abdullahi Surau to take his oath of office. I, Ali Abdullahi Surau,
having been appointed as the Assistant Registrar of Political Parties, do hereby swear that I will at all times obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution of Kenya and all other laws of the Republic of Kenya, and that I will faithfully and fully, impartially, and to the best of my ability, discharge the trust and perform the functions and exercise the powers devolving upon me by virtue of this appointment without fear, favor, bias, affection, ill will, or prejudice. So help me God.
Well, of course, a more comprehensive report in regards to that will be coming your way in subsequent bulletins. Of course, I'm talking about the 1 p.m. bulletin, of course, that will be in the evening, and lastly, news hour at 9 p.m. Again, we digress just a bit briefly, where we take you to the Stanley Hotel, whereby guest speaker Esther Koime, that is the PS for State Department of Broadcasting and Telecommunications, is presiding over another event, commemoration of International Day to End Impunity Against Journalists. So kindly also let's listen in for a bit.
Freedom of expression and access to information. The government's commitment to the growth and expansion of media has been evident through the efforts to support protection of media freedom, media training, and media sustainability interventions. Among the interventions that have been have been the successful digital migration that has allowed growth in broadcast media, support to the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication for media training, support to Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, and respect for the principle of co-regulation to thrive through non-interference in the constitution and decision of the regulator, the Media Council of Kenya. The government acknowledges the role played by independent and professional media in national development and will continue to extend all necessary support to the sector to enable it discharge its duties. The government is keen to establish a media fund that would ensure sustainability in the industry, which is essential for a free and independent media that serves the public interest. The ministry is working with the Media Council of Kenya and other stakeholders in the industry to ensure the regulatory and policy environment are reviewed to reflect the present industry needs, including ensuring that the country has a media that serves public interest and does its work responsibly. It is in the interest of the journalism profession and the country at large that the media reports factually, objectively, and within context when reporting on public interest issues. Media enjoys public trust in terms of shaping a debate on national issues, providing information to foreigners about the country, and keeping watch on the use of the national resources. I'm glad, in fact, that as colleagues have spoken here, we recognize the agenda that is before us going forward, which is really to continue talking about the COVID issue, making sure that the public understands that it's a serious challenge and that we have personal responsibilities to be able to protect ourselves. And also that going forward we are looking at the issues of the BBI, we are looking at the fact that we are heading into the election period, and therefore the media is going to be called upon to really speak truthfully about all these things that are key. We encourage the Media Council to continuously engage and involve the ministry and other stakeholders on matters relating to the media industry, and always seek dialogue and support whenever there are challenges facing the industry. It is important that the industry players work together to ensure the current media regulatory framework meets international standard, and journalists work within the confines of the Code of Ethics for the practice of journalism. We need to work together as an industry to address the challenges facing the industry, including safety of journalists and media practitioners, loss of revenue, loss of jobs for the media practitioners, inability to match their operational models with the current market trends, poor training and capacity, weak financial base, which has been made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic. The digital transformation has tilted the business operations, including introduction of converged newsrooms, use of digital business models, and retooling of media workers. Additionally, the emergence of social media channels as news sources has affected the flow of revenue in terms of advertising. Other challenges include training standards, where the national media curriculum has not changed, thus hampering the quality and agility of media workers in an ever-changing media environment. Just like in all other aspects, the COVID-19 pandemic has posed unique challenges for the media industry, both in Kenya and elsewhere. The ministry is aware that media houses are concerned about falling circulation figures and the decline in revenue from advertising associated with the emerging trends of fragmented audiences and a slow pace in the adoption of innovation. It's clear that the need for reforms in the media ecosystem is necessary to make the outlets vibrant and enable them play their watchdog role in the society. These challenges, if left and addressed, can be a threat to democracy and a free society, because there is need to have a strong media to keep check on democratic institutions and facilitate access to information by citizens. Therefore, there is need for the media to also explore alternative revenue streams to sustain their operations. As a ministry, we will continue to facilitate policy proposals that will foster the expansion of freedoms for the media through facilitating access to government information, as well as promoting freedom of expression. We also commit to ensure safety and security of journalists in the course of their duties. I also need to address, obviously, the fact that we are aware that the ministry owes media houses money for advertising through MyGov, and we are in consultations with the Treasury to make sure that this is paid. I'd like to call upon the industry and stakeholders to partner with us in making these efforts fruitful by pointing out the challenges they face and by promoting solutions for continued existence of a vibrant media for the benefit of all Kenyans. On its part, the media has an obligation.
Once again, of course, as I mentioned, for more comprehensive report in regards to that story, tune into our subsequent bulletins. It's actually quite interesting. That was about the journalists and, of course, Esther Koimeti speaking to the PS Ministry of ICT. And what we're talking about today actually falls under there, because we're talking about film, sports film.
Indeed, yeah. That's, in fact, that falls under our ministry. Why I say our? Because I'm now part of the Kenya Film Commission as a director. So I'm very happy to hear my PS talk on the same lines.
Now back to the festival. And why sports film? Because You know, in Kenya, we don't have the kind of popularity. Most people don't know about it because even as I look through this magazine, through the submissions, I understand that you are showing some movies throughout the festival, but as I look at the submission forms, Kenya, we only managed, there are only 14 entrants. Well, you compare to other countries, you have even Italy, 47, you have Iran, 132, you have Brazil, 66, India, 257.
Indeed.
So why is it not as popular here in Kenya? And of course, I do understand the Sports Film Festival is part of, making people aware of this. And how far are we willing to go so that we can actually focus on this?
Well, that's the whole point, and I think the awareness is not there. And I think this festival, one of the main purpose is to start the creative industry to think that they can do more than the normal that they are doing. That sports is a huge market that they have not tapped. And as I said earlier to you, it's time that we need to document and recognize our unsung heroes and ambassadors of this country. I think we've done very proud over the last 50, 60 years in different fields of sports. But when you talk about record keeping, we are lacking in that. I mean, there was some youths I was talking to, and I said, we need to start doing this. And, for example, we need a story on Naftali Temu and Kipchoge Keino and all that. And so they gave me a surprised look like, who are they?
Yeah.
So it's a worrying factor that a Kenyan youngster, some of those youngsters don't know about Naftali Temu, or what Kipchoge Keino has done.
Yeah.
So, and that's a serious matter. So it's time that we start writing books, writing records, keeping photographs, documenting documentaries, doing feature films on our heroes. So that's the heritage that I think is important. And so this festival has already woken up. I mean, we had the Ministry of ICT is fully involved. We had the CAS do the opening and read the keynote speech of the Cabinet Secretary, Joe Mucheru. We have the Kenya Film Commission on board supporting the festival. They were also there in the panel discussion. So I think I would call this a work in progress, but we are progressing extremely well. And I think in the next year or so, the foundation's purpose was to wake this up and now go into film production, documentary production. So I think in the next year or so, you will see the Kenyan entries going much, much higher, and we are capable, able, and competent to do this. It's just a matter of awareness, and it also fits in to the president's agenda. I mean, of creating the trade and industrialization, where we are trying to create jobs. So this would be a fantastic area where the youths can be empowered and create major jobs. Then yesterday the president even launched the day before on universal health. That's another major issue, and that comes, universal health means good health, and good health means sports. So it really, what we are doing fits into the two agendas of the president. And I think we need to up the market, up the game, and see that all the stakeholders can come in and to see how we can enhance this, create jobs, good health, and I think we will do great for our country.
Okay. Now, for the viewers, maybe you might think it's only about film, since we've been talking about it for the longest time. Majorly, it is. It's about getting the youth, especially, to have an idea of how this works, documenting our legends and whatnot. But also, the Kenya International Sports Film Festival, it was a 4-day event, and among other issues that were discussed, important issues, of course, that are affecting the sports industry in Kenya. We also There was the issue of commercialization we've talked about multiple times on this stage, but also arbitration for sports. I want us to touch a bit on that, because as we understand, we have bodies that have been mandated to solve sports disputes and conflicts. Besides the Court of Arbitration for Sports, which is international, here in Kenya we have the Sports Disputes Tribunal. But do you think the mandate is actually quite clear that, do you believe they're independent? Because we have cases whereby people sometimes are not satisfied, and what they do is they always run to other courts, which actually just dilutes the whole purpose of having a sports disputes tribunal for, just solving sports matters. Do you think they're independent enough, and what do you think needs to be done for us to experience finality in rulings that are given? We don't have to see everyone. Whenever something doesn't go your way, you have to go to the High Court or you have to go to whatever court. what do we need to ensure that we have finality in these disputes?
I think that's an excellent point you brought about, and I am extremely passionate on that subject that you've just brought about. Kenya, first of all, has a history of excellent sports results over the last 50 years. But over the last few years, when you look at the way the things are going, our governance is the major problem. That's where the whole problem is. The other things of the sports tribunal going to the court are products of poor governance. If the governance was in place, most of these issues would be sorted out. Now, a sports tribunal was created, which I think was very welcomed, but it's not very clear whether their decision is a finality or not. Because now I have seen, for example, in cricket, which I call a circus right now in our sports, what is going on is a shame where we are. But you had a situation where the sports tribunal got involved in a dispute, then you had some members go to the court. So it's not very clear. And then the court sends it back to the sports tribunal. So I think the line of clarity is not there. But I would want to go back to say that is not the solution we have right now. The sports tribunal is not a solution, neither is the court the solution. As sports people, we need to be playing sports. And I would strongly advocate, and I'm going to make a very strong statement if I'm allowed, that we need an executive order from the president to ban the entire sports in this country, from the NOC to all the sports associations, because we have a very outdated constitutional system. A lot of it is a colonial base. The times have changed, the situation has changed, and you use the word commercialization. When money comes into anything, there are a lot of people interested to be involved, positively as well as negatively. So I think what we need to do is to go back to ground zero. We need to get the president to give an executive order. He then appoints 16 to 20 competent people, because we have some fantastic people in this country. And they are shying away because of the mess that we have. You know, people are not interested to go into fights and all that. People are interested to give that positive energy. But that positive energy can only come if the governance is put in place. So if he appoints 16, 20 people from the legal department, from governance experts, and there are some very good ones we have in this country, bring some very good sports administrators, people who have played at a high level of sports, who can understand the psyche of it, give them 3 to 6 months to look at it, and we don't need to do a new document. We just need to go to successful countries in sports in the world, pick up their document, exchange notes with them, and then come back with it and tweak where it's required for our needs. And then every sports can also be further tweaked on the needs of that particular sport. So football has their own niche of requirements. Basketball has their own niche. Cricket has their own. Tennis has their own. So if that can be done, then you will have less issues on disputes than the way we are going. I mean, football, for example, which is we're so passionate about that sport in this country. I mean, how many years we are going on and on this matter? I mean, we've got FKF even right now, even after the elections, there's a hue and cry. There is no satisfaction. And remember, the people who are affected in the most are the sports people themselves. Because you must remember that the sports now is a profession, and most of our footballers are getting paid to play football. Now, a sportsman's life is very limited. He may have 10 years or 8 years or maximum 12 years at a high level. But then he has a bigger life ahead. If he does not maximize the income that he can in that period, how is he going to sustain his life later on? We don't have any structures. The Ministry of Sports is doing nothing. All they are doing is just a PR exercise. That's not what we need.
Okay.
We need a clarity on this matter.
Okay. And taking into consideration everything you've said about it, I understand there's a flip side to that coin, because if the government was to say, let's say all bodies were banned, the moment government comes into sports, as we all know, international sporting federations will definitely ban all our federations. And as we said, for sports, the people who suffer most are the sportsmen. Maybe would that be, like taking away from, let's say, athletes, from rugby players who sometimes at least have something going for them?
That's again a very valid point, because there is a repercussions to this matter. Yes, we will be banned. Right now, COVID-19 has actually disabled all sports in the country. So it might be, on hindsight, an opportunity, even though if we are banned, but we cannot clean up this exercise. We'll have to take a tough call.
Yeah.
And if we go and explain to all the national, international bodies of what is happening and what we are intending to do, it's a matter of having a dialogue with them and explaining to them that we are having, and they are aware of it. It's not that they're not aware of it. They're fully, FIFA is fully aware of what's going on in football. The ICC in cricket is fully aware of what mess we are in. So it's a matter of sending the right people to go and dialogue and explain to them that we are intending to do this for the purpose of this. So it's something that I think needs to be discussed further. It needs a bigger conversation. Maybe it can be discussed further, and hopefully we can make this, because this sports is a huge thing right now. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
True.
And we need to do justice to our sports people in Kenya. It's paramount, it's necessary, and I'm very passionate on that matter.
Okay. And yeah, I do believe that that's where the other issue comes in, because as you mentioned, where there is money, I mean, sport is worth around the sports industry globally, 60 trillion
Indeed.
shillings.
Yes,
that's a lot. Hence, everyone wants a stake on that. So now, among other issues that were being discussed during the Kenya International Sports Film Festival was about, and which is actually a good point that I want you to touch on, challenges faced by women. And the interesting bit was, we were not only talking about women who are sportsmen, sportswomen, we were also talking about sports administrators, which is something that most people overlook, actually, because as much as we've been trying to make strides in ensuring that also women get these, major positions in federations and whatnot, we're still a long way off from seeing the full, let's say, the full effect, their full impact, really. So what can you say about that?
Well, I look at it this way. I mean, if this conversation that we are having right now would have never taken place 10, 15 years ago, it was not even heard of that you would think of the women to be involved in sports administration. We've come a long way. We have done very well. Of course, we haven't reached where we are supposed to reach, but it's a work in progress. I think we've got some very good administrators in the women. The women have done proud to this country also. I mean, look at all our athletes who dominate in the world.
Exactly.
And so they have done extremely well. They are now upping the game. And remember, women have many challenges, from the domestic to getting even in the olden years, it would be very difficult for parents to even support the young girls. I mean, I'm talking 20, 30 years ago. It was a different story, but the things have changed. So I think as Kenya, as a sporting country in Kenya, I think we are done well as far as women is concerned. It's a work in progress. I think they're doing very good in terms of administration. We have some very fine administrators in the country, and I think they need to be given more support, encouragement, and make it an all-inclusive. And so I'm satisfied in that area that the progress is going well.
Okay. The conversation continues, of course, with Asif Karim. But for now, of course, there is an event. Of course, the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Professor Magoha, is, of course, assessing learning as well as delivery of desks for schools at Mukuru Primary School in Mukuru Kayaba Estate in Nairobi. So let's have a look at that.
Friday, we shall be in a very good state to tell the nation that this exercise is complete and that all has gone well. In terms of schools, people complying with the government of the day, the government that is responsible for the territory of the Republic of Kenya is headed by Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And all schools have complied with whatever is required, except one school, which for the time being I shall not mention. And I think I'm going to give them up to the end of today to desist from thinking that they are a special breed of people, where they have already engaged their own kindergarten, standard 1, 2, and 3 in school. One government has not pronounced itself on this. If by the end of today they do not conform to what government has instructed them to do, then we shall name them and we shall shame them. And they will have themselves to blame. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, on the issue of COVID, I want to say that COVID has rattled even the doctors like myself. And nobody can say what is going to happen next except what we are seeing. And for now, we are seeing the disease raging. One senior procurement manager at the Kenya National Examination Council succumbed to neck. She was not old. She was not unhealthy. So COVID is actually real, and let us hope that we change our culture of impunity against ourselves. And for that reason, we have decided as government for now that those students who are in school, like you have seen them, they should continue to be in school. Because life must continue as long as we obey the protocols that are given, which unfortunately most of us are not obeying. If you look at those children, they are all masked. Then go out of the school and you see the children outside and find out where they are masked. So are they not better at school? So they are better at school, and that's a very strong point that we shall continue to consider in favor of keeping the schools open. In terms of opening schools for all the others, there is consultation at every level of government. And as you are aware, on the 4th we are going to engage, His Excellency the President will engage with the governors and other stakeholders. And after that, we shall then decide when to call our own internal education stakeholders, so that when we make a decision with regards to the children who are at home, it shall be a very well-informed decision that may have consequences, but then everybody will be responsible for those consequences, including your most humble selves. What are the parents saying? The majority of them are saying, no, can we have the other children at school? Because there are others who are there. You may argue and say, well, we have had instances like the case of Maranda, where somebody came from the coast and infected another 8 or so candidates. But it is under control. And Maranda, being one of the largest schools, has a candidature of over 650 this year. So from the point of view of numbers, those students are being isolated and the school is ongoing. But then we always knew that when you move students around, that might happen. So the other big issue is that if you now ask them to go home, then another incident like that might happen. So I think as we together watch this week, let us not be too intrusive. Let us keep on watching. And if there's anything that you need to know, you will be able to know. Unfortunately, even from Mr. Buhari, I'm not taking questions, because I hope I've addressed your anxiety, and that for now we are hoping for the very best, and we are hoping that by the grace of God, at the right time, we shall open school for the rest of the children. Thank you very much for your cooperation and for your continued interest in this process. But like I asked you, continue to keep checking that money for these desks have been used for the purpose that they were meant for.
I'll welcome back, of course, once again for a more comprehensive report. You obviously know that our subsequent bulletins will cater for you and for that. Now, Asif, before we end this conversation, because of the interest of time, there are certain sports that we no longer have a conversation about. example, cricket, and also motorsports. People are back to talking about motorsports because, well, the Safari Rally was supposed to be back this year, but due to the coronavirus pandemic, we have to wait up until next year. But for you, as someone who has been around during the heydays, back then you were playing when the Safari Rally was, it was huge. And we're expecting it will be the same, it will have the same impact. But what does it mean for guys like you who have been around even before, the sport became that popular once again?
Well, we've lost the Safari Rally for almost 17 years. That's a huge loss for the country in terms of economy, in terms of the sport itself. But I give my full marks for the government's support on this and to bring it back. And I give a lot of credit to Finis and Surinder for doing a fantastic job and lobbying it well at all international levels. And really, it's exciting. And when you get such people those are the good people you have around that need to be nurtured and brought in more. And I still remember as kids, we used to follow Joginder Singh and Shekhar Mehta, and those exciting times at Easter. It was so exciting. And this, I think, is going to bring in a lot of money next year. They're talking about almost 6 billion shillings coming into the economy. And so I think they're exciting times for the motor rally, for the motorsport. It's a huge sport internationally, and Kenyans again have done very well over the years. The first one was in 1953. That's when we started. So we have a rich heritage and history also in motorsports. So I'm excited. We look forward to it next year.
Okay. Now, lastly, maybe to reach, you mentioned you're a member of the Kenya Film Commission. Of course, I'm a member, but considering what you're doing, the Kenya International Sports Film Festival, encouraging people to document more sports through film, is the commission keen on that? Because this is your own initiative, but at the commission, is that something that we are now considering? We are trying to push, for the youth to pursue, because we have our film industry is we're quite active, but we don't have a lot of sports films. Sports documentaries, we don't have a lot of those. So maybe as the commission, I know you can't officially give the official position, but what you've been trying to do, have you been pushing it through the commission to actually have more of this?
Indeed, I think for this to succeed even further, it needs everybody to be involved. And I want to once again thank the Ministry of ICT, because the President's executive order 18 months ago moved it from the Culture Sports Ministry to ICT. And Honorable Joe Mucheru has done wonders. He has appointed the right people at the Kenya Film Commission, and right now the board has made a lot of progress through the CEO, Timothy Ovase. And a lot of things are happening. The creative industry is already excited with the change by the Kenya Film Commission. But that's one area that has now also woken up at Kenya Film Commission, that sports and film is definitely an integral part that needs to be encouraged. And so the CEO was one of the panelists in the film festival. We had a few filmmakers from Kenya and from international who joined in the panel discussions on the role of film in sports, the impact of biopic in society. So it's a work in progress as we are going. I'm very optimistic that we are going to achieve the target. We have a board that is very committed, very, very focused on turning around KFC to better things. Right now our budgets at the KFC have increased by almost threefold. We are almost at 350 to 400 million. So the government is fully supporting. The president is fully behind it. In fact, he has told us that he would want Kenya to be a filming destination. And when you film in Kenya, you filmed in Africa. So the government is fully behind it, the president is behind it, and I think there's some exciting times for the creative industry, and I think it's time that sports needs to work with the creative industry to make this even higher.
Okay. Now, as we wind up, because of the interest of time, and of course we're going to have more conversations regards to this, the Kenya International Sports Film Festival. This was the 3rd edition, as I mentioned before, but maybe you can tell the audience where they can, of course, get to, view the previous, editions and actually understand, because it will take a while for most to actually get into this idea, because people are used to, it comes to film, it's maybe an action movie, a comedy. The whole thought here in the country about a sports film, it's thought-provoking, yes, but most people won't exactly immediately get into the idea. So maybe you can tell the viewers where they can follow up on that to get more details and understand the whole point of it.
Thank you very much. I would request all the viewers to take an opportunity to go through our social media pages. The website is there for Kenya International Sports Film Festival. We have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter page, we Instagram, YouTube channel. You will look at what work has happened over the last 3 years. 2018, there are some videos of panel discussions. 2019, obviously we cannot keep the movies on our social media platforms, but for those who had the opportunity to watch it, I'm sure they were inspired, and we're looking forward next year to continue strengthening this festival to a much bigger level. We took it to a global level this year. I'm so proud of my team for the work that we have done. And now we're also looking at, hopefully, if things go well, to do an online sports television channel next year, so that it would be not only an event per 4 days during a period, but we would make it throughout the year, so that we can show inspiring sports movies, we can have dialogues on sports in this country, we try and bring in some panelists from around the world, and hopefully we can make Kenya a great sporting nation and an envy to Africa sports. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bwana Asif. That was quite interesting. And for the viewers, there you have it. It was quite interesting, really. I did attend, sadly, only the last day, but I had been following up since Thursday. And it was it's quite noble, of course, the whole idea. And well, soon we can only hope that more people will actually, shape their minds into promoting this, being part of the development of sports films in this country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really also appreciate and thank KBC and yourself for supporting and being keen to see how we can promote this further. And as I said, this is a team thing. We all need to work together for the interest of our country.
True.
So thank you.
Thank you very much, Asif. And for the viewers, we're going to be taking another short break, but don't go too far, as we'll be back with the last segment. That is the point where we analyze our football matches that happened over the weekend. See you shortly.